Friday night arrives in Miami. So do the Colorado Rockies. Rockies are here for a three-game set, finishing off this homestand, and the Marlins are happy that they're not wearing Dodger blue. The Rockies, having dropped 2 ball games late in Philadelphia, arrive. DJ LeMahieu and his mates are here. The Marlins and Logan Morrison will try to get better. Julius Chassin has been one of the Rockies' best this year. Tom Kohler, one of his best starts in his career, was in Colorado. Hi, everyone. Rich Waltz along with Tommy Hutton. Welcome to Miami. It's Marlins. It's Rockies. Second time the Marlins have faced the Rockies. And Tommy, when the Marlins went into Denver, you expect big games, lots of home runs. But the 4 games that these two teams played were not Coors Field type games.
No, they were actually very well-pitched games. The Marlins have fond memories of their trip to Coors Field, winning 3 out of 4. They outscored the Rockies, certainly. They hit the ball well. Christian Yelich got his first major league hit as a Marlin, got it there against Julius Chassin. And Solano was 6 for 16. He had a good series. Of course, Stanton always hits the ball well against the West and the Rockies. But Giancarlo, always happy to see West teams. But I think he's with you, happy to see the Dodgers out of town, even though he hit them well.
Yeah, what is it about the West? Now, on the road against the West, he's really good, but he just so happens to have gotten hot on this homestand, which has featured 3 teams from the West.
Yeah, we have seen him all of a sudden get locked in. He's got 10 career home runs against the Rockies. We saw what he did against the Dodgers. For some reason, he gets hot at the time the West teams come to Miami or he goes to the West.
So the pitching matchup in this one, we already gave you a sneak peek of Julius Chassin and Tom Kohler, our Coventry matchup.
Chassin has never beaten the Marlins. He's 0-4, career ERA over 6. Against the Fish, and probably Tom Kohler's best start of the year was in Denver against Colorado.
Yeah, he was very much aware of pounding the strike zone. He was in Coors Field, and it certainly worked out for him. He'll try to duplicate that tonight. The Marlins saw Julius Chassin. They beat Julius Chassin. So, there you go. It's Rockies, and it's Marlins, and we're ready for baseball tonight. The Fish and the Rockies get ready to go at Marlins Park. Here, ready for a three-game set. Let's head out to center field. Craig Minervini, Jeff Conine.
Well, the Marlins have recently honored their team from 1993, their 20th anniversary team. We saw a bunch of guys here not too long ago, and tonight there could be a reunion. These two could not make it to that 20-year anniversary.
Yeah, too bad we weren't playing the Colorado Rockies. Renee
nice.
Latchman, our manager back there in 1993. Walt Weiss, our shortstop in 1993. I saw Doug Rader in the house tonight. He was our hitting coach back then. A lot of former Marlins.
Yeah, Weiss now the current manager of the Colorado Rockies, but he was the original Florida Marlins shortstop wearing number 22. He was batting 8th in the lineup right after a fellow by the name of Jeff Conine, who was making his Marlins debut out there in left field. We asked Walt Weiss about those moments. 1993, original fish.
It was a fun time being part of an expansion team. In the inaugural season was a fun year. We had a good bunch of guys. We had some good players for an expansion team. When you look back on it, my manager Renee Latchman is now on my coaching staff. So we still have there's still some connection here to Florida. But I enjoyed that season in '93.
Walt Weiss, what a great teammate, a guy that I always use as an example for young infielders to pattern themselves after because he worked as hard as anybody.
That's not right. He had an impact. And how about that guy? He looks good.
He looks great. I saw him last year in AAA. I went to see our AAA team, and he was coaching first base, so I gave him a lot of grief from the dugout.
His hair's a little shorter than it used to be, that kind of long, curly hair. Back in the day, the original manager who reminded the media right off the bat, you can call me a lot of things. Don't call me coach. I'm the manager. You can call me Skip. You go that over you guys with that one too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you had to call him Skip or manager. All right, here we go. The expansion teams, yes, from 1993, 20 years later, will battle at Marlins Park next.
Florida is brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. By AT&T Uverse TV. Check availability. 1-800-PICK-AT&T. Rethink possible. By Just for Men, mustache and beard. And by Checkers. Feast on. Marlins Park tonight. Rockies and Marlins. Glad you're with us. And here come the Rockies. The Rockies having dropped 2 in a row up in Philadelphia, and they did it with walk-off style, the Phillies did. JM Lexus brings you their starting lineup. Dexter Fowler's in center. DJ LeMahieu at second base. Tulo at shortstop. Michael Kadire is in right field. Wilene Rosario will do the catching. Ryan Wheeler is at first base. Nolan Arenado is at third base. Charlie Blackmon is in the 8th spot. He's in left field. No Cargo tonight. And Julius Chassin hits 9th. Pinch a penny, as always, brings you the first pitch. It's Tom Kohler to the switch-hitting center fielder, Dexter Fowler. And Sam Holbrook calls ball 1. And this ball game is underway. And the question is, can Tom Kohler duplicate his last start against the Rockies? One of his best, maybe his best, in terms of command and control.
Yeah, 7 innings, 8 hits, a run. But the key for Kohler in Denver, he didn't walk anybody. And the last few starts for Tom, that's been an issue.
Kohler's breaking ball darts inside to Fowler. Fowler having a nice season from the leadoff spot. Did not have a nice series against the Marlins. And then Kohler misses away, and it's 3-1. I think for all the young starters, Tommy, save maybe Jose Fernandez, there have been issues of control at times in these last couple of weeks.
There's just a good fastball to Dexter Fowler, who knew it was coming. Like the way the young guys kind of congregate around each other on the bench.
Kevin Slowey just joined the group, bumped Alvarez off. Broken bat, flare. Yelich got it. He paused and thought maybe it wasn't a good idea, and then said, what the heck, I'm going for it.
Well, he knows if you dive and don't get a ball here, it's a lot of trouble if it gets by you for a long way. But broken bat, full swing, he paused, then all of a sudden he made that little accelerated move and extension. There was the pause, there's the move, and there's the catch. Not to mention a good landing.
Here's LeMahieu now. DJ LeMahieu, the LSU shortstop, an original Cub. LeMahieu arrived in Colorado in the Ian Stewart trade. Up the middle. Echeverria is on the job, and makes a nice play to first to get LeMahieu. So Kohler's pounding the strike zone, and he's getting outs, and he's got defense behind him. Here they are, brought to you by the Cleveland Clinic, Florida.
Well, and that's the way to do it. With Yelich, Marisnik, and Stanton in the outfield. Lucas Echeverria, good play by Etch on that ground ball from LeMahieu. Solano and Logan Morrison over on the right side. And there's Jeff Mathis. Had a nice series in Denver. Mathis did. He's behind the plate.
Troy Tulowitzki, one of the Rockies All-Stars. Tulowitzki stands in. It was his 3rd All-Star appearance. And a breaking ball for a strike.
Always good to see Kohler and any of the starters establish that secondary pitch, the breaking ball. So he dropped in a nice curveball for strike 1 to Tulowitzki. Misses with the slider.
Tulowitzki's hot right now. There's a couple of hitters to really watch for in the Rockies lineup. Tulowitzki is one of them, and 2 spots away is Wilene Rosario, the Rockies catcher. Both have hit streaks. Tulowitzki at 9 straight, 14 hits in those 9 games. And Rosario hit a 3-run homer last night, has hit in 13 straight.
I was just thinking, even if Tulowitzki's not on a 9-game hitting streak, you got to watch for him.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. He's ever since he put on a major league uniform, he's been spectacular.
It's a little different lineup, though, Rich, without Carlos Gonzalez. Cargo on the disabled list.
Well, Gonzalez adds so much. I mean, he's what they call in other sports a stat stuffer, and Walt Weiss loses, number 1, a great bat, a good slugging percentage. Number 2, terrific speed in Cargo, and number 3, a Gold Glover out in the outfield. So that's a lot to lose for the Rockies.
And a guy who was this year hitting much better on the road than at Coors Field.
Another guy they've lost too is Rafael Betancourt, their closer, who in the last 2 nights has blown a save and watched the Phillies walk off with wins. The real concern is that his issues are with his elbow, and he will be examined and have an MRI in the next few days.
Well, they know he blew some saves. They hope he didn't blow his elbow.
Tulowitzki fouls it back. All right, Kohler and Tulowitzki in Colorado. That was one of the few hits that Tulowitzki had.
That was the only run that Tom Kohler allowed. He'll probably call up here and say to us, he'll see us tomorrow around the batting cage. Why'd you show the only run I gave up in that game?
Well, we've already shown him pitching well in that game. But I think for Kohler that night, here's the 3-2. Liner to right field, long run for Stanton, and he won't get it. And Tulowitzki around first, eases into second. Remember, he's had leg issues, groin issues. He no longer has the speed that he once had. He's got himself a double.
And a 10-game hitting streak. That's the kind of hitter Tulowitzki has been his entire career. I mean, he has the power. You saw the home run he hit in Denver, but he sprays the ball all over.
I think that home run that we just saw from Tulowitzki was an indication from Kohler that he was going right after guys. And as they talk about in Colorado, if you're going to give up a couple homers, just make sure they're solo shots.
And that's what Tulowitzki's was. There are the numbers. Terrific number. 91 pitches, too.
Michael Kadire has had a real good year. All-Star home run derby contestant, finished third in the home run derby. He's been good at home. He's been good on the road. His average on the road is .311, so he's not just a Coors Field guy. And you saw he had 5 hits and 13 at-bats in that series in Denver.
And a guy who Marlins manager Mike Redmond knows as well as anybody.
Yes, 14 years in the Twins organization. It was Kadire's second career All-Star game. No swing. Andy Fletcher's down at first. Rob Drake is at second. And Joe West is at third base. Tulowitzki, a 2-out double. Kadire has driven in 66 runs. And Kohler freezes. He felt he had a strike there. Kohler may have gotten a call early in the count. Kadire got this one.
Yeah, it's up in the strike zone, but it was in the strike zone.
So it counts 2-2. 17th start this year for Kohler. And he got him. Nice comeback after not getting the call. Kadire goes down swinging. Rockies. Got a hit. It was a double by Tulowitzki. Tom Kohler struck out Michael Kadire, and here come the Fish. Brought to you by JM Lexus. Christian Yelich had a nice series in Denver. Donovan Solano hit second. Giancarlo Stanton is hot right now. Logan Morrison has been swinging it well. Ed Lucas has perked up over the last 3 games. Adeiny Echeverria at shortstop. Jake Marisnik gets a start in center field. Jeff Mathis behind the plate. And Tom Kohler hits ninth.
And there is a look at the numbers of Jhoulys Chacín. Signed when he was 16 years old with the Rockies out of Venezuela. And as Rich pointed out, along with Jorge De La Rosa, probably the 2 steadiest pitchers the Rockies have had this year.
Rockies generally have a tough time in the team ERA department with the games at Coors Field. And they check in 14th in the National League with a 4.23 ERA.
But that, I tell you what, is a whole lot better than their ERA last year.
Yes. Their starters ERA was 5.81, the worst in Major League Baseball.
This year, 4.40. So they've made an improvement in that area. And that's always been the topic of discussion around the Rockies, is their pitching.
That's a strike 3 called. Chacín took a little off, and it dropped right into the strike zone to get Yelich. Here come the Rockies defensively. A very good team defensively. 5th in the National League.
Yeah, Charlie Blackmon. Fowler covers a lot of territory. Michael Kadire's in right. Arenado, Tulowitzki, LeMahieu, and Wheeler around the infield. And Willeen Rosario is their backstop.
They look like a happy team, Tommy. They all had smiles on there. It's brought to you by the Cleveland Clinic, Florida. Denver is a happy place, isn't it?
It's a happy place.
Donovan Solano at second base, hitting second. Solano was standing behind him. It's a chopper to third. We saw Nolan Arenado put on a defensive clinic and a show in that 4-game series in Denver. He is really, really good defensively.
You know, it's one thing. You go into a city and you're going to see a guy that you've never seen before, and a lot of people are telling you how tremendous defensively Arenado is, and he lived up to everything that everybody told us.
Arenado might want to back up a little bit because here comes Stanton, and he's been swinging it.
And he is. He's a step from the grass. Arenado is at third base.
9 straight for Stanton, and every one of those 9 games has had a laser beam hit, whether it's stayed in the ballpark or gone in a gap or been hit to a fielder.
Look at Arenado, the third baseman. That's as deep as you can play on the dirt.
Little wrinkle from Chacín to get a strike, and it's 2-1.
Yeah, Chacín will feature a little bit of everything. Fastball, he'll 2-seam it, 4-seam it, slider, curve, some change-ups.
Stanton doubled yesterday to extend his hit streak to 9 straight. Now sits at 19 doubles and 16 home runs. With a guy like Stanton, one of the things you look at, slugging percentage. His is getting closer to 500, 469. This is game number 83. Chacín didn't want to give him anything straight. Now it's 3-2.
Well, let's scout the 25-year-old. He does pound that strike zone. Slider he'll use any time in the count. We've seen certain hitters on the Marlins that pitchers will elevate that fastball when they get 2 strikes.
Stanton flips that one foul. Rosario back for a look. And it's 3-2. Chacín last year did not have a full season, as you see Morrison getting ready. Spent 3 months on the disabled list with a shoulder issue. And of course, last year was the kind of the experimental year by the Rockies and their front office, having a 4-man rotation with 75 pitch limit every time a guy went out. So it was pitcher A and pitcher B. Starters were only getting into the 4th or the 5th inning. And it frustrated manager Jim Tracy so much that he walked away with another year on his contract. He just flat out quit and didn't want any part of it. That's when Walt Weiss got the call. He was guiding Regis Jesuit High School to the Colorado high school postseason. That's when he wasn't acting as the offensive coordinator, quarterback coach for the high school football team.
He just did it all. You know, and then the Rockies brought in charge of their pitching operations, former Marlin pitching coach Mark Wiley.
That's a wise move.
And Mark Wiley's here. Actually talked to him a little bit tonight. Yeah, very good move.
Morrison takes out. Now Lomo's been on a nice run. Very consistent. Yesterday 1 for 4. Hit the ball hard 3 times. And had an 8-game hit streak. Ended on Wednesday by Zach Greinke. Boy, the Marlins got a taste of the Dodgers pitching the last 2 games of that series, with Zach Greinke going 8 innings, giving up just a run, and then Kershaw going 8 innings. He didn't even give up a run.
Yeah, Greinke and Kershaw have stopped a lot of hitting streaks.
And as much buzz as there was in the ballpark, and it was terrific to feel it and see it, how much buzz will there be at Dodger Stadium tonight when the Dodgers play Boston? Both have 75 wins going into that ball game, and Ricky Nolasco gets the start against John Lackey.
Yeah, there'll be some buzz at Dodger Stadium tonight.
Of course, the buzz will mainly be around Vin Scully, who has announced he's coming back. Is it 65th year?
65th season next year.
Morrison lines it foul and out of play. Now, were you or I interested in attaining public office, we'd have no shot. Vin Scully, write his own ticket. Mayor.
Whatever position he wanted.
Governor.
In L.A.
Lieutenant governor. Two-two. Morrison takes and the appeal. Country Joe says no.
Well, a good AB by Stanton. A good one here by Logan Morrison to lay off that pitch. Just out of the zone, a little bit low.
I think the one thing you got to remember about Morrison is, although we're in the later stages of August, this is really his early June in terms of a season. Hammers it, and it's foul. Remember, Morrison coming back from his second knee surgery didn't get to the Marlins until 7 or 10 days into June. And so he didn't have a full spring training. He did play in some rehab games, but that's not like spring training.
So here in the month of August, Lomo hitting .316 with a nice on-base percentage.
Breaking ball, little tapper up the line. Chacin flips in time, and the inning is over. Marlins lead Stanton after the Rockies left too low. That's why it's scoreless into the second.
SAP for Coventry Healthcare of Florida.
Now, Logan Morrison hit an absolute rocket down the right field line that was just foul. And then Chassin got him to dribble out to first. I can't believe the crack staff is going to shoot 18 miles an hour off the bat.
Somehow I have the feeling that'll get back to the crack staff. And we had nothing to do with it.
They didn't. we argued vehemently against it.
And you see where we stand.
Willeen Rosario stands in, and he's hot. 13-game hit streak, 5 homers over that span. And he was the hero last night until Dominic Brown had a walk-off hit. And the Phillies won the ballgame 5-4. Solano gets a nice easy hop, flips to first to get it out. This is the Tom Kohler that pitched in Denver, pounding the strike zone, getting early outs. Have you joined Billy's Bunch Kids Club? Well, you can. Billy's Bunch is free for kids 12 and under, and you can sign up at Marlins.com or any Marlins game this season. Membership includes the official Billy's Bunch t-shirt, a lunch cooler, Marlins tickets, and more. Tell your parents that you want to sign up for Billy's Bunch today. Ryan Wheeler stands in for the Rockies.
You know, Rich, we have talked about really over his career about Giancarlo and how he's hit against the National League West. Tom Kohler's had a nice run against the National League West. Tom Kohler's 2-2 with a 2.53 ERA.
2 of his best games were on the road against the West, in Colorado and in San Francisco,
and against everybody else at ERA over 5.5.
That was quick. Ryan Wheeler, Pacific Coast League All-Star, ends up looking at a called strike 3. And Kohler has a couple of outs. Here comes Nolan Arenado. Arenado is a homegrown Rocky, a second-round pick back in 2009. And a high schooler. Rockies haven't drafted many high school position players. They've had a lot of success drafting college players. Tulowitzki at Long Beach State. But Arenado, Southern California guy, smacks it by another Southern California guy. Stanton trying to pick it up off the wall. He does. And for Kohler, this fits the pattern of the first inning. He got 2 outs and gave up a double almost in the exact same spot to Tulowitzki, and Arenado has a double here.
Boy, this is just a nice swing by Nolan Arenado. Fastball's away. Boy, look at his head, how he stays right on the ball. Hit the ball sharply. This is a guy that hit extremely well and put up big numbers in the minor leagues, too.
Charlie Blackmon, left-handed stick out of Georgia Tech, teammate of Derek Dietrich's at Georgia Tech. And he takes outside. Blackmon came quickly through the minor leagues. When you hit .312 in your career in the minor leagues, you generally get promoted pretty quickly.
Don't want to start a trend, but the Rockies with a couple of doubles tonight. The Dodgers had 12 doubles in this series.
And a lot of the Dodger doubles were blasts. Puig's double off the very top of the wall. We have not seen a ball, and this is the second season in this ballpark. We have not seen a ball hit where Puig hit right above the 418 sign, and it plopped right off the top of the wall and bounced back into play. 1-2 to Blackman. Look out. That one just hopped right over the railing and off the facing of the dugout. Rockies are 11 under, but they are improved from last year. Tommy talked about the ERA, which has been a lot nicer than last year. They were 64-98 last year, which was their worst finish in franchise history. They were a wild card team as early as, I guess as late as 2009 when they won 92 games, but they've regressed each year to 83 wins, 73 wins in 2011 to 64 wins.
They'll still have a little bit of a say in the National League West. They have 2 more series, 6 games left with the Dodgers. They actually have a 2-game series against the Red Sox the last week of the season.
Is that in Colorado or is that in Boston?
It's in Boston.
Well, you got a front row seat. You got to be ready. And Dad made the grab.
I like both were ready, though. You know, both were making a play at that.
Dale Swaim's brother.
Yeah, look-alike.
2-2. And it's down. The Rockies can hit. The Rockies can score runs. Their slugging percentage is the best in the National League. They've clubbed 135 home runs. Easy Tommy. That's what Jeff Mathis shouted at him. Scoreless ball game. The start of this 3-game series. Poll question. AT&T Universe poll question. Best opposing shortstop this homestand. Well, Brandon Crawford's young and improving, but I don't think he's in Hanley Ramirez, Troy Tulowitzi's class yet, so it's probably a two-horse race here, Hanley and Tulo. Hashtag SS Hanley, hashtag SS Tulo. Hashtag Ed Lucas goes to fairly deep center field. Dexter Fowler covers a lot of ground. He's the perfect guy to play center field in this ballpark and at Coors Field. Gap-to-gap speed and a good glove.
Marlins pretty much held Hanley in check. Hanley was 3 for 13 in that series. Got the day off yesterday.
Who would you go with, Tulo or Hanley? I would, if it were 3-4 years ago, you might go Hanley.
Yeah, it's interesting because both have had their share of injuries.
Well, a former shortstop, former third baseman, former outfielder, continues to have an incredible run. Miguel Cabrera just hit a 2-run homer, and the Tigers lead the Mets by a score of 4-1.
Boy, and he's banged up. He's got that bum, lower ab, hip area, not running 100%. It hasn't affected his hitting at all.
It really is hurting his swing. Echeverria.
So that would be number 41 for Miggy.
High chopper. Arenado makes the play. Couple outs for Julius Chacin. And Jake Marisnick now comes to the plate. Marisnick saying hi to Willeen Rosario, saying hi to Sam Holbrook. The Marlins were in Colorado right after the All-Star break. And it was in Colorado that Marcell Ozuna was still in center field.
And that was where Marcell Ozuna hurt that thumb on that diving catch. Beautiful play.
(0-2) to Miami center fielder.
So we saw both Christian Yelich and Jake Marisnick make their debuts in Denver.
Yeah, the series started without him, but finished with them. Chacin's had a nice August, a 2.22 ERA and a 2-2 record. He's been able to get deep in ball games, though his last start he pitched merely into the 6th.
You know, in that last start, Rich, he took the mound knowing his grandmother had passed away. And after the start, he went back to Venezuela to be with family and then joined the club here.
Rosario, especially with 2 strikes, and even though there's nobody on base, getting out to smother that pitch. It's like a little red light that goes on in a catcher's brain.
Well, the other reason, too, with 2 strikes, if the hitter swings, he wants to make sure he keeps that ball in front of him.
Well, that's right. I mean, that's why the red light is on.
It's always on.
2 strikes. Probably a few catchers sitting at home watching the game, and when the count goes 1-2 and 2 outs and they see that pitch, they flinch.
If they can still flinch.
Hit hard. Arenado is at it again. And he robs Marisnik of a hit. He played just like that in Denver. Aerial coverage provided by Goodyear. Everything Goodyear has learned making tires that go the distance inspires what they roll into yours. Goodyear, more driven. Scoreless ball game. Marlins don't have a hit yet. Tom Kohler's given up a couple doubles, but he's pitched around both of them. Julius Chassin, Dexter Fowler, DJ LeMahieu in the third in Miami. On a busy night in Major League Baseball. Chassin takes a fastball in. Around baseball today, the buzz about Ryan Braun's apology. His teammates apparently have embraced it. Others not so quick to buy all of it. The Athletics needed a catcher, so they went and got one they traded last year. Kurt Suzuki back from the Nationals. That's going to be a tough play. Lucas, bare hands, and just got him. I mean, just got him. Chassin runs pretty well for a pitcher.
Yeah, once he saw that little tapper and saw where Ed Lucas was playing him, he thought, I've got a chance. But a terrific bare hand pick and throw by Lucas. Nice stretch. Watch this. Just got it. The foot's in the air as the ball is into the glove. Good call by the first base umpire.
You saw in that shot. In that shot, Sam Holbrook, or rather Andy Fletcher, the first base umpire, making the call. Watch where he's looking. Watch. He's watching the base and listening for the ball. That's the mechanics.
You know what I like about that? He also took his time. I mean, he didn't try to give you the flashy, ring it up, out call or safe call. He kind of paused. He wanted to make sure he saw it. Then he made the call.
And that's why the ball in the dirt is so tough for an umpire. Because it's not the clean sound of the pop of the glove.
Because you're not sure if you hear the tick of the dirt or the ball going in the glove on that short hop.
Yes. Fowler from the leadoff spot takes out. And a 4-pitch walk for Tom Kohler. We check in with Craig Minervini. Craig?
Hey, Rich, thank you very much. I was talking to Ed Lucas about playing defense over there at third, and we should use Ed Lucas word of the day. He used the word fortuitous bounce the other day when the Marlins got a win, and the Ivy League grad also used the word omnipotent to describe Perry Hill, of ultimate authority. He says he's just amazing because Hill might be hitting ground balls in batting practice to the right side, maybe the first baseman or second baseman. And Ed said if there's one play where you kind of throw it a little lackadaisical, somehow Perry sees it out of the corner of his eye, and it makes him just sharp. He's had a little bit of a rough series. You see that base hit defensively in a couple of plays against the Dodgers, but overall he's done a pretty good job no matter where he's been in the infield, mostly first, second, and third, a spot start at shortstop. And he says that helps keep him sharp because he's had to learn so many different positions here and been very valuable. He said he didn't even admit it, guys, that he probably's got more starts than he thought he might have when he came up here end of May.
And Craig, just to let you in on his secret for words, it's words with friends that he's big on. You'll see him in the clubhouse.
Hey, I wouldn't want to challenge him in that at all.
He's one of those guys that's got like 7 or 8 games going at once.
Remember when over the break, I think Allison was asking guys what were they going to do and whatever, and he came back and said, I went out and played some trivia. That was one of the things he did over the All-Star break.
Very nice.
Yes.
Dangerous hitter with runners on, and Tulowitzki fouls it back. A 10-game hit streak for Tulowitzki, 15 hits, including the double back in the first.
I'll tell you what, in talking about Perry Hill, nothing gets by Perry Hill. He sees everything. He picks up things that infielders do that they need to improve on. He's amazing.
Counts 0-1.
And that's why he's the best.
Fowler dancing from second. Well, the Rockies have had runners in scoring position in every inning. The difference here is there's one out and Tulowitzki's at the plate. Kohler was able to strike out Kadire with 2 outs in the first and get Blackman to bounce out with 2 outs in the second.
Well, he's got the meat of the order right here in Tulowitzki, then Kadire.
Tulowitzki, left center field. Yelich gets his body around it. Fowler is tagging on his way to third, and he's going to get there.
Probably a better idea in hindsight, and Yelich may know this. His throw would go to second base as opposed to third.
This copyrighted telecast and this sunset is presented by the authority of the Marlins. May not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. Good luck trying to reproduce that shot there.
Looks like a painting.
And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Marlins. We should have such compelling pictures every time we read a disclaimer, even if we have to make it up. That's just so cool. Goodyear blimp.
Save some of the blimp photos.
Yeah. Goodyear blimp flying above Miami.
Yeah, the reason I say that about Christian Yelich, he was deep enough that he wasn't going to get Fowler, who has really good speed, going from second to third. So you, in hindsight, would rather see him go to second base with that throw. Keep the runner at first.
Well, that's where Kohler went to get strike 3 against Kadire in the first inning. That breaking ball off the plate.
And the other thing about that play, and I'm just putting it all together, you have a young center fielder in Jake Marisnick. He needs to be over there, which he was, and I'm not sure if he was yelling or trying to let Yelich know where to throw the ball, but it's his job to help him out there.
Fastball right down the chute. You can kind of hear Kadire hiss at that one, angry at himself that he let a good fastball get by.
Got some nice pine tar working on the bat.
It's a sweet look. That's one of the things that if you're a bat boy, and bat boys do a lot of different things during the course of the game. They handle the bats, they are in and out of the dugout, but afterwards you got to clean a lot of stuff, and you get that pine tar in your hands, it's tough to get it off. Kohler knocks it down. He's got to get the out at first, and he does. Barely. Kadire out by a whisker, and this ball game still scoreless. Bottom of the third. Tomorrow night, it's Legends of Wrestling night. No, Dinger won't be here, but the Legends of Wrestling will be here. Bret Hitman Hart, Bill Goldberg, and over a dozen other superstars and legends will be here after the game.
I'll take on Dinger.
I would pay money to watch you and Dinger get into it. One of Tommy's favorite mascots, and I say that with a big dollop of sarcasm. Back to baseball. Jeff Mathis now. The Marlins trying to figure out how to get to Julius Chassin. Just not giving up a hit. And breaking ball backs Mathis off the plate. It was not a good day today, Tommy, in baseball for pitchers.
Bad news, more bad news for the Atlanta Braves.
Brandon Beachy placed on the DL with elbow inflammation. We talked about Rafael Betancourt, the closer of the Rockies, and his elbow situation. Matt Cain hit the disabled list with a bruised forearm. And the Cardinals placed Jake Westbrook on the DL with a back strain. Swing and a miss.
Yeah, in the game that Chassin pitched in Denver, the Marlins were able to get 3 runs against him. He gave up 8 hits and 3 runs in his 7 innings. Christian Yelich had a couple of RBIs. But I take that back. He had 1 RBI. That third base hit that Yelich got off Chassin, that was that one that was changed about 3 weeks later to an error.
There's got to be a statute of limitations on a scorekeeper's call, doesn't there?
I would think so.
There's probably a filing deadline for an appeal. Here's the 1-1. Tapper past the mound. LeMahieu on to first in time to get the out.
Hey, Rich, you and I have to give a shout out to a couple of ladies who watch us every night. Eloise Card and her daughter, Donna Glendenning. And I believe Eloise is 91. Her daughter, Donna, they live in different sections, different areas, but they watch our games. I forget how many consecutive games they've watched, so we thank you for that.
Well, they're famous too, Tommy.
Yeah.
They're 34 miles apart. There's a 1 hopper, and Tulo fires to first. Check them out, MiamiHerald.com. It's a great story, mom and daughter. And watching tonight, ladies, thanks for joining us. Now landing. And a fine time to look at the Toyota trend. Now, there are stats in baseball that help explain why and where and how. But this one, the Rockies have winning records on just 3 days of the week. First of all, I guess the why would be why. Why do they win on Fridays, Saturdays?
That's one of those you could, I don't know, you could throw it out there. It'd be different every year.
So the other question would be, why is it our Toyota trend? That apparently, Tommy, beat out a Toyota trend about Dinger, the Rockies mascot.
I think I could take it, too.
I don't think you could take Willeen Rosario, who may not be Miguel Olivo strong, but he is strong like Bull.
You know, he has, this would be a great trivia question, he has more home runs than any Major League catcher, 20.
He banged 28 last year. The challenge for Rosario has been behind the plate, not at the plate. Rosario, the 24-year-old Dominican, last year slugged .530. Anything 500 and above is good. Out into right center, he hits that ball far, and Marisnick makes the catch. That ball went a lot further off the bat than you would expect.
And that's why it's even a better play for Jake Marisnick. You can't get fooled by an outfielder if you think, well, that ball's not going to travel far, but Marisnick got a nice jump and was right there for it.
Big Ryan Wheeler was having a terrific year in AAA. Colorado Springs, which certainly has the elevation just like Denver, is a great place to hit in the minor leagues. And so you put up big numbers there. And Wheeler was doing just that.
Yeah, I think some would say, well, yeah, it's a great place to hit, but his major league team is a great place to hit too. So it's a good barometer.
Solano picks it off the dirt, and Wheeler is 0 for 2, and here comes Arenado.
Well, something that Marlins pitching has gotten used to doing, and that is pitching with not a whole lot of support. It's bad news because you don't pick up a lot of wins, but I think it's good, certainly in a development of a young pitcher. Keeps you in close games, and it's nothing Chuck Hernandez can do anything about.
That has to be part of the development as well, and that is the mental strength to go out there and pitch and not worry about runs. That's a hurdle that even veteran pitchers have trouble getting over. It's good live fastball there.
Cole Hamels has been afflicted with that this year.
That one misses in. Counts 1 and 2. Arenado's double was to right. He's not touching that.
Boy, good stuff tonight by Tom Kohler.
That a 1-2-3-4. The Goodyear blimp continues its cruise over Miami. Honda. Visit your Honda dealer for great lease and finance deals on fuel-efficient Hondas. By Coventry Healthcare of Florida, lighting the way to better health. And by Hialeah Park Casino, a world of entertainment. Come and live it. Now open. Got to make those billboards live, Tommy Hutton.
That was a lot of good punctuation.
Bottom four, Solano, Stanton, Morrison. Julius Chacin has been nasty to the point that the Marlins don't have a hit. Chacin has thrown early strikes. He's pounded the strike zone.
And you know, Rich, speaking of punctuation, to punctuate our point about the Marlins pitchers receiving very little support, the Marlins this year have had 61 games where they've scored 2 runs or less.
Into center field, a base hit. And it's the first one of the night for the Fish. Solano is aboard. And importantly, a base runner in front of Stanton and Morrison. I'll bet you there's a lot of games where it's not 2 runs or less, but 3 runs or less.
80 games of 3 runs or less. Well over more than half the games the Marlins have played. 80 games they've scored 3 runs or less.
Including tonight, there are 36 games left in the championship schedule. Pitch misses inside. Well, that's a season snapshot of the Marlins. Recently, the Marlins are in a 20 consecutive inning drought where they have not scored a run.
Well, the last run they scored was Stanton's home run in the first inning off Zach Greinke. And they did not score the rest of that game. And of course, the 8 shutout innings, the 1 shutout inning of Brian Wilson, and Kershaw and Wilson shut out the Marlins 15th time they've been shut out this year.
Man, the Dodgers open play tonight with a 9.5 game lead in the West. It seems like just 2 weeks ago that the Diamondbacks lost the lead. And now they're 9.5 back. Pittsburgh's lead is down to a game in the Central. The Braves' lead is at 14 over the Nationals.
14 with issues, though. Of course, I would imagine a lot of teams would change places with them, but they do have some issues these final weeks of the season.
Stanton pops it foul and out of play. If the Braves have a 14-game lead, we start our broadcast night tomorrow at 6:30. A 14-game lead with issues. The Dodgers have a 9.5 game lead with benefits.
Yeah,
sort of like friends with.
They have no issues. Yeah. Of course, the Marlins' next road trip will head to Washington, Atlanta, and then see the Cubs at Wrigley.
Chacin challenging Stanton and striking him out. Here's the rough patch the last 3 games. Now remember, Greinke and Kershaw play a big role in this, but not real good with runners in scoring position. Leadoff runners have been getting on. The double play's an issue for the Fish as well.
And I think the other thing in that series against the Dodgers, and Mike Redmond has addressed it, the Marlins made 6 errors. And it's just an area of the game that even with those 6 errors, the Marlins are in pretty good shape. What'd you tell me before the game? They're 7th?
They are.
In the National League in fielding.
Despite their...
See, I listen to when you tell me things.
Well, we have our pregame meetings. Tonight it was over fish tacos and smoothies. Chacin working to Morrison. Lomo just missed extra bases on a liner down the right field line, and then ended the at-bat on a tapper down the first base line. That one foul back to the screen. One ball, one strike.
I think, Rich, you've made a substantial investment in Diamond Juices this year. Are there stock options involved?
There are. I have preferred shares. Here's the 1-1. Morrison, well, we talked about double plays, and Tulowitzki turns one. And the Marlins going on 21 consecutive scoreless innings. Rockies turn a double play, and it's scoreless still. Mustache and beard play like a champ profiled. Even though Brian Wilson is gone, we had to find someone with a beard for the Just for Men read. And it's Todd Helton, so he's an easy choice. Since 1997, Helton is at .317. And look at Sean Casey making an appearance. And John Olerud, the first baseman. That's a nice lift.
Pretty good list. Yeah, it was.
All right, the Rockies trot out Charlie Blackmon, Julius Chassin, and Dexter Fowler. Tom Kohler and Chassin have been trading zeros. Blackmon trying to bunt, misses. And then a quick question for Sam Holbrook as to whether that would have been a called strike or not.
Saw that shot of Todd Helton on that list. He's just 6 hits shy of 2,500.
Smacked into left field. The base hit. Yelich will pick it up. You know, you wonder sometimes if an umpire in that case really knows, because the umpire is obviously watching the ball come in and getting ready to call it a strike, but when a player bunts at it or swings at it, as soon as that action happens, the focus is on the swing and the bunt attempt. And that may be my homework assignment for tomorrow. Go down and talk to the umpiring crew.
Well, they always have pretty good communication. A good umpiring crew has good communication amongst themselves.
Chassin obviously in a bunting mood, pulls back, runner goes, and he slashes it foul.
Now Walt Weiss having his ball club play a little hit and run. So that shows that he has some confidence in Chassin, who has 9 base hits this year, so he handles the bat pretty well.
I think, Tommy, the high school team that he coached last year ran the spread passing attack. So
yeah, and the baseball team he coached hit and ran a lot. We got that scouting report.
1-2.
He could put it back on. He had Chassin showing bunt. Now it's 1-1. He might still be bunting, or he could put the hit and run back on. Stu Cole, the third base coach, is making sure everybody sees him, too. He called out Chassin. He made sure the runner over first base, Blackman, saw him.
He's got one of the all-time greats at first base, Rene Latchman, who's over there at first. There's Latch.
Marlins' first skipper.
He's got the toothpick going. He's got UL Washington. That UL Washington look tonight.
You were talking earlier about the jobs that bat boys do. Rene Latchman, as a teenager, was a Dodger bat boy. So he could tell you what you needed to do. He could tell you a little bit about Drysdale and Koufax.
So was that early 60s?
Yeah, it was in the 60s. He was actually one of our good friends, Joe Moeller, Marlins advance scout. Joe was a young 19-year-old pitcher on that club, and Latch was probably a couple years younger. So he was 16, 17 years old as a Dodger bat boy.
Runner goes, a swing and a exact same thing, a foul tip that pops out of the glove of Mathis. The trick there is if he had bunted and fouled it, he'd be out, but since he pulled back and swung at it and fouled it, he's still alive. There's Stu Cole. He does foul it while trying to bunt, and with 2 strikes, he is out. We're scoreless in the 5th. If you want to win tickets and ride aboard the Marlins Fan Express for you and 49 of your friends, enter to win the Fox Sports Florida Fan Express sweepstakes, and you could be the talk of the town. Take all your friends to Marlins Park in style. Just go to marlins.com today, and in 100 words or less, tell us why you deserve to bring your friends and family to the game on the Fan Express. Entry is free. Marlins.com, the place to go.
Great way to come to a game. A good job by Kohler to make pitches that Chassin wasn't able to put in play or get down as a bunt. Sometimes it's easy to say, well, the hitter failed to get the job done, but sometimes a pitcher makes some pretty good pitches. He's also keeping Blackman close with some quick tosses over to first.
66 pitches in, top of the 5th, scoreless. Kohler, who threw 7 innings with 1 run. We showed you the Tulowitzki homer in the ballgame at Colorado. Looks just as sharp tonight as he did that night in Denver. It's on the 22nd of July. Blackman away, bouncer, Solano, Echeverria, double play, 4-6-3. Nicely done. Both pitchers have used that to their advantage in this one. In this one, we're still looking for the first run of the night.
Es presentado por Hialeah Park Casino, abierto ahora.
Welcome back. Marlins Park. Ed Lucas, Danny Echeverria, Jake Marisnick, Julius Chassin fires, and Lucas clobbers one. Left center field. That ball is deep. That ball is gone! Ed Lucas, who was sprinting around first, not sure if it was going to leave, and it does. And Miami has the first run of the night. Lucas with just his third big league home run.
A couple of days ago, I was watching Ed Lucas take batting practice, and he was amazing a lot of people, myself included, hitting some balls onto the home run sculpture, hitting some balls out with some pretty good power, and put a charge into that one. Wasn't sure if it was going to get out. I don't think he was. He got out of the box in a hurry, and it just cleared the fence. So nice going, Ed Lucas.
Echeverria.
Got a pitch, middle of the plate. He was able to turn on it. It's the first of his 3 home runs. You mentioned 3 home runs. This first one here at Marlins Park.
That hit the home plate umpire. Here's a Clevelander home run. We'll call it a Clevelander home run. It was on Jeff Conine's stairway to heaven after it went over the fence and then kind of bounced around. And so Lucas not only improving his word power, but improving his overall power.
Yeah, it snaps that shutout string the Marlins had on the line.
Echeverria sends it to left center. Blackman from left makes the catch. FP&L brings you scores from around the league. Arizona's out to a 3-1 start against the Phillies. Miggy has homered, and it's 5-1. Tigers on top. Atlanta and St. Louis are scoreless. Milwaukee over Cincinnati. Pittsburgh and San Francisco. Chicago and San Diego a little later on. Breaking ball misses in to Marisnick. Marisnick was robbed of a hit by Nolan Arenado. Washington's actually on the road against Kansas City. Eric Hosmer has hit his 15th homer off of Gio Gonzalez. Justin Maxwell's hit his 6th. Both of those home runs off of Gio. Kansas City with a 3-0 lead. And that's still in the bottom of the first in Kansas City. Marisnick's pop-up draws Wheeler towards the seats. And he makes the catch. 2 outs after the Lucas home run. On Sunday, it's a Kids Sunday, and you can pick up the Pepsi 4 for $50 4-pack Family Sunday with the Marlins and the Rockies at 110. And a Danny Echeverria 3-quarter baseball jersey, courtesy of Chevrolet. And you can run the bases after the game if you're a kid in the Diamond Dash. Marlins.com, a place to go for tickets. Mathis, a little dribbler up the line. Chassin gets him.
Boy, that's nicely done
by Chassin. But Ed Lucas got a fastball and blasted it. And Miami is on the board. A 1-0 Marlins lead.
Wrestlers arriving in town. The Nasty Boys are here with the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, and it's coming up tomorrow night.
You know, Craig, tomorrow we're going to be signing these free poster cards, baby. Bill Goldberg, Bret Hart, Jimmy Hart, the Nasty Boys, you name it, we're on here, and it's all free tomorrow.
Tomorrow night, right after the game, guys.
Not after the game. Bret the Hitman Hart, Bill Goldberg, many others. Then me and Knobs take the stage, and we're going to nasticize all of Miami. I'm telling you, I am so pumped. Right here at Marlins Park, their first annual Legends of Wrestling night. Everybody's going to be here. Coco Beware. I'm telling you, the genius. And then you got the matches afterwards. You got, hey, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, the legendary Greg the Hammer Valentine. But we're going against the Aces of Eights, these young punks that go for Impact Wrestling right now on Spike TV. Well, let me tell you something. You're going to try to take out the legends, the classics. Hey, you better bring a baseball bat and maybe a helmet, because you're going to get nasty size, baby, and you're going to Pity City, because it's going to get crazy, it's going to get wild, and it's going to get nasty.
I don't want you guys to get all your energy out here just yet, but is somebody going to get their haircut potentially from Brutus the Barber Beefcake?
You know what? Brutus
right here.
sharpen the scissors up tomorrow. Somebody's going to get their hair cut. Somebody's going to get nasty size. Somebody's going to get the Pity City. Like I said before, what a super, super day it's going to be and night. We can't wait.
You never know if Bill Goldberg's going to spear somebody. I mean, come on now. It could happen.
All right, Nasty Boys, Jimmy Hart, and as you could see, these were easy interviews back in the day. Now you got to work for these interviews. You guys make it easy for us
This
guys.
is great, baby. This is great. This is the way it should be.
Don't forget about yourself. You are going to be our special ring announcer.
I'll be there as well, Rich. We'll go back to you. Legends in Wrestling here tomorrow night as we have a triple at third there. DJ LeMahieu continues to kill the fish. Back to you guys. Follow that one.
We're at Pity City at this point right now. DJ LeMahieu knocks one in the gap. He can really run, and a leadoff triple, and the Rockies are 90 feet away from reclaiming the run that they saw the Marlins get.
Pitch up a little bit. LeMahieu's had good swings. His second hit in the game tonight. Gets it into that deep area out there in left center. The Legends of Wrestling is going to be great, but you know what? Prior to that, Jose Fernandez is pitching tomorrow night.
Thank you.
And he's not going to have many more home starts, because he'll probably start a couple of times on this road trip and maybe one more at home.
Tulowitzki's up, infield's back. And so the triple now, it'll be tough for Kohler to keep him at third. He's got Tulowitzki, Kadire, and then Rosario, the three best bats the Rockies have in their lineup. Tulowitzki has doubled and flied out. Infield is back. Fernandez goes against Jeff Manship, who is yet to get a win. He's 0-3 and his ERA is close to 8.
First ever appearance against the Marlins.
Ten straight for Tulowitzki with his double in the first. 2-1 the count. Kohler just missed. Kadire waits patiently.
I think when you get in a situation like this, after that leadoff triple, you have to think to yourself, let me get 3 outs. If they get that 1 run, okay, it's still a 1-1 game. You don't want to open it up with a walk, and even though it sets up a double play, there's nobody out. You just don't want to open it up to the Rockies to have a big inning.
especially at this point in the order with Kadire and Rosario now coming up. Kadire struck out, bounced back to the mound. Michael Kadire, one of the many talented players out of the Virginia area. Great Bridge, Virginia. We often talk about that area with all the terrific third basemen that have come out of there. Ryan Zimmerman, Mark Reynolds, David Wright, and of course the Uptons. But Kadire, probably the big brother to all those guys. He's 34, so he hit the ground running first. Great Bridge, Virginia. And Kadire fouls it back to the screen.
Well, what a nice run. 10 full years with the Minnesota Twins.
He's been in 6 postseasons. And while the Twins haven't had great success, he has in 6 division series. Carries an average of .348. The Twins always seem to have, in that run where they were getting the postseason, have some offensive issues once they got there. Arizona winning tonight 3-1 in Philly. Martin Prado has driven in 2 of the 3 runs. It's a Cole Hamels start. Down the right field line. It's hit well. It's into the corner. That's a foul ball. That possibly could have scored 2 had it been fair.
So another Cole Hamels start where, at least to this point, his offense has only gotten him 1 run.
It's bottom of the 6th, 3-1, Arizona on top. Cardinals and Braves are underway. It's a Wainwright-Medlin matchup in St. Louis. We'll have to take a peek if this game runs long and see what happens in San Diego, just to see if Donnie Murphy is going to be Donnie Bleepin' Murphy again tonight.
Man, he hit a tying home run in the 9th inning against Steven Strasburg.
Grounded to third. Lucas got one there. The turn is not in time. And so the Marlins get just the 1. Kadire gets an RBI. You know, Lucas, he didn't show it physically, but you expect maybe mentally. Took a peek at the runner just to see if he got the good jump from third. He did, and he went after 2.
Yeah, and to show you how perfect everything has to be to get a double play at this level, the ground ball came up just a little bit on Lucas. So that slowed things down a little bit, and it also made him probably give a little high throw to Solano, and just like that, and Kadire was going up the line quickly. He stayed out of the double play.
And LeMahieu did get a clean break from third and was going hard. Now Rosario. Kohler would do wise to keep him in the ballpark. Rosario's been leaving a lot lately. 5 homers in that 13-game streak, and that's close.
But by the way, that is the correct play for Lucas.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, this stage of the game, it's the tying run, but you have a chance to get a double play. You go for it.
The hard part for a third baseman is that ground ball's coming to you, and the runner going home is in your field of vision. And you obviously have to ignore him, but if a guy falls over or trips or doesn't get a clean break, you'll see some third baseman take a shot. There was no shot with LeMahieu. Kadire will steal a base if you sleep on him. He's 9 of 11 in stolen bases this year. broken bat. Look out. That one into the seats. And it's caught out in center field by Jake Marisnick. So 2 outs now, and Ryan Wheeler comes to the plate. Wheeler was an Arizona Diamondback. And the Rockies sent left-handed pitcher Matt Reynolds to get him. Out of Loyola Marymount.
Well, it's at the stage of Todd Helton's career where he's not in there every day. Helton played in their game yesterday. So Wheeler gets the start tonight. I'm sure we'll see Helton in this series.
Called up for his second stint of the year at the start of the week. Wheeler 0 for 8 on this road trip.
The whole pace has changed with Kohler. His aggressiveness, the pitches, compared to when the score was 0-0. And after that leadoff triple, the pace changed for him. He's missed with a lot of breaking balls.
'86 pitches in, 2 outs, a run across in the 6th. DJ LeMahieu led off the inning with a triple. He scored on the fielder's choice by Kadire.
This will probably, Rich, be Kohler's last inning. He's due up first when the Marlins bat in the bottom of the 6th.
Breaking ball, Solano. And so that leadoff triple provides the Rockies with their first run in a 1-1 game. seems Mike Redmond would like another inning out of him. Let's freeze something, shall we? This was Christian Yelich's catch. That opened the ball game. And that is our Frostbrewed Coors Light freeze can.
Well, Tom Kohler is going to hit. Christian Yelich is on deck, and I think you're right. I think Red just probably feels, all right, give me one more inning, and that shortens things up in the bullpen a little bit.
So 9-1-2 for Miami. Julius Chassin has been really good tonight, except the one pitch that Ed Lucas pounded 400 feet to left center field.
I'll tell you another thing, too, that helps a manager make that decision to try to get one more inning out of his pitcher. The bottom third of the order is coming up for Colorado. So that's who Kohler will face next inning.
And here's Yelich. Yelich in 0 for 2. And he takes away. He had a particularly rough time against Clayton Kershaw yesterday.
Yeah, I talked to him a little bit about that, and he certainly agreed. One of the best he's seen. He had a plan. He said it didn't work out. He goes, you know what? Try to get him next time. He had a good approach about it.
Two quick outs, and here's Solano, who's bounced out and has singled. Cholula hot sauce spotlight player, Barranquilla, Colombia. Originally a Cardinal, spent a long time in the farm system. Finally got a shot last year with Miami after having a great spring. Of course, Jonathan, his brother. They became either the 11th or the 12th or the 12th or the 13th Colombians to ever get to the big leagues. And Solano sends that one in the gap. I don't know if Fowler can cut it off. He does, and that'll prevent a triple. Solano settles for a double.
Well, bottom line, he gets into scoring position. Back-to-back hits for Jonathan Donovan Solano. We had Jonathan up there. Well, he just continues to have that solid line drive swing. And you also saw the speed of Fowler demonstrated getting over to cut that ball off.
Was it your former partner Joe Angel that coined the phrase Barranquilla baby?
Yeah, for Edgar Renteria, the Barranquilla baby.
Stanton takes outside. Giancarlo has walked. He has struck out.
Joe Angel now calling Baltimore Orioles games, calling a lot of Chris Davis home runs. Also Adam Jones. Adam Jones has had a tremendous year for the Orioles.
He is a really good player. The Orioles actually were involved in a trade with the Braves this afternoon. Freddie Garcia, Venezuelan right-hander, veteran, very veteran, he's 36. He was pitching in AAA for the Orioles.
Well, I'm sure Giancarlo has a green light, but he hadn't seen a whole lot to hit. And that's an example of that. I'm sure the Rockies, when they went over the hitters in their scouting report, in their meetings, they said, you know what, we're not going to let Giancarlo Stanton beat us. So pitching around Stanton, even with a left-handed bat, and Logan Morrison coming up.
Well, all the advance reports you get before a series come from the 2 or 3 series that the advanced scout or whoever's logging or watching the video watch. And we've seen Stanton over the last 2 or 3 series just tear the cover off the ball.
Now, if you saw him in Pittsburgh or a little bit before that when he wasn't swinging the bat well, you might get a different report from that advanced scout.
Now Morrison will try to make it hurt. Up with 2 outs. Solano at second, Stanton at first.
And that's the best way to get Stanton some pitches to hit. For Logan Morrison to get hot. He's been hot. He's been solid in the month of August.
Chassin misses way out.
And the home run hitting Ed Lucas is on deck.
This was a matchup of one of the Rockies' better starters. When you see the Rockies pitching coach, Jim Wright, out to the mound. One of the Rockies' better pitchers against Tom Kohler, who has had his struggles of late, but has pitched well against the Rockies. He did that in late July. Chassin has gone 5 2/3. A run on 3 hits, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. That's almost the same line as Kohler, who's got 6 innings, 5 hits, a run, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts.
Chassin's pitch count very manageable at 79.
Morrison takes away. Counts 3-0.
And I would say Logan Morrison would have the green light.
Rockies bullpen silent. Morrison takes out. And he's walked. And they're loaded for Lucas.
It's funny how sometimes when a pitcher pitches around somebody the way Chassin pitched around Stanton, and then he has a hard time getting back into that rhythm and groove, and he had trouble throwing strikes to Logan Morrison.
Sometimes that can be the case when a pitcher tries to execute an intentional walk and then has to pitch to someone, and this is Lucas's swing. You saw how he busted it out of the box. He wasn't sure it was out either. Little tip of his cap as he got to home plate. So here's Lucas. Bags are loaded. The other thing working here for the Marlins is that Lucas is a very patient hitter. Although he did swing at that one in on his hands.
I think he thought, okay, he's just walked a couple. He's going to try to get ahead, throw that first pitch fastball. He got it. It was a little bit in on him.
Lucas, a soft ground ball. Tulowitzki around it and makes the play. A premium defender is Tulowitzki, and Miami ends up leaving all 3 on. Goodyear. Everything Goodyear has learned, making tires that go the distance, inspire what they roll into yours. Goodyear, more driven. The Goodyear blimp back at it again. And with great pictures again. Sunset was terrific. Derek Reed was the captain yesterday. Not sure who's up there, if it's Corky Belanger or if it's Derek Reed back at the controls of the Goodyear blimp. Tom Kohler at the controls for the fish, and as Tommy pointed out, in there for the 7th, bottom of the 3rd, with Nolan Arenado, Charlie Blackman, and Jules Chassis.
We were talking, Rich, about that Tigers-Mets game with Miguel Cabrera hitting his 41st home run. He hit it off the Mets starter, Daisuke Matsuzaka.
That's right, they just signed him. It's not been a good start for Gio Gonzalez tonight. 6 runs in 2 innings. Bruce Chen is on the mound for Kansas City. Eric Hosmer is homered in that ball game, and it's 6-1 Royals. Lucas crossed the diamond. Arenado is out number 1. Next watch party coming up Tuesday the 27th at Duffy Sports Grill at the Intercoastal Mall at North Miami Beach. Marlins and Nationals at 7:05. Win prizes, tickets to upcoming games. Meet Billy and the Energy team. Enjoy great food and drink specials at Duffy's. Go to marlins.com for information.
Well, it has also not been a very good start for Hiroki Kuroda of the Yankees. 5 innings, 9 hits, 7 runs. The Rays with a 7-1 lead in the 5th inning.
Not been a good season for the Toronto Blue Jays. They're at 57 and 71. And the Astros have a 2-1 lead over the Blue Jays.
Toronto's lost 5 in a row.
Matt Dominguez hit his 18th.
You know, his average has been in the 230s, but he's supplied some long ball for the Astros this year.
He's driven in 63 runs. Blackman with a 1-1 coming. Turns on a breaking ball, but he turned a little early. How about that? Look at that.
Bring the gloves, stay alert, be ready, and get high fives from everybody.
Oh, backhanded catch.
And got blocked out by those guys in front. Super play.
That looks like 3 generations of baseball fans sharing a real cool moment.
And he's going to be telling his kids someday about that. Yeah, you're right about that. 3 generations. That's a great sight. Beautiful.
Kohler, good classic live fastball there. And I'll bet you the question tomorrow morning is, can I take it to school?
Hey, they said to bring something for show and tell. Hey, by the way, nice job by Kohler to come out and get the first 2 outs. You know, Mike Redmond said, all right, I want to at least get 1 more inning out of you. Who knows? Maybe another. But he's come out here in this 7th.
Marisnick trapped it.
Well, that's a little chancy. But he made sure that he got a glove on it. You get to a point where, all right, I don't think I'm going to catch this, but I better knock it down.
Oh, that just caught in the webbing up by the thumb in his glove. You're right, this ballpark, that's at least 3 bases.
Even for a pitcher. But we've seen Chacin run well.
Chacin with a single. Now Kohler faces Fowler for the 4th time and throws a strike. Maybe the Reds are starting to make a charge. Reds are up.
I told you to watch out for the Reds.
Up over Milwaukee 2-1 in the 6th.
The Reds have those on-base guys. Brandon Phillips, second in the league with 94 RBIs.
Yeah, the Reds in St. Louis trying to capture the flag, so to speak, and take it from Pittsburgh. A 1-game lead over St. Louis. 2.5 back are the Reds in the Central. Oakland and Baltimore in a back-and-forth tussle. 6-5. Baltimore in the top of the 5th. Right about Adam Jones. Coco Crisp homered for the A's and Jones for the Orioles. That ball is clobbered. Marisnick took a weird route, but he still gets there. I mean, it was almost like he ran a fly pattern and Fowler threw him a post pattern, and he had to adjust. And he did nicely.
Living it the way some ladies to love my way. Something so real. Soon as I walk through the doorway, yes, I got it up, I feel it every second, every minute. I can do this all day. Everything is smooth, flowing, singing. I got it. I got it. And the light on top of the world, shouting, sing. I got it. I got it. If you feel it, you know you got it. Let the whole world know, sing it out loud, say I got it. Top of the world, on top of the world.
In Miami tonight, Rockies and Marlins opening up a weekend series. Craig Minervini, Jeff Conine, Tommy Hutton, Rich Waltz with you, John Sulzer, our producer, Jim Hawley is our critically acclaimed director, Ken Lee, our graphics coordinator. Will pop up first base side, and it's out of play. It's nice to have Chip Singer back with us.
Yeah, he had a little back issue yesterday, but you know, he's on that stretching program and missed just one day back at work. Chad Qualls had a little tightness in his lower back, but he's back ready to go. And the 7 innings that Tom Kohler pitched, how about back-to-back outings against the Rockies? 7 innings, giving up just 1 run. That's what he did in Denver. That's what he did here tonight.
Dexter Fowler plants himself under Echeverria's pop and makes the catch. So both managers said to themselves, I'd like another inning out of my starter. Marlins got it out of Kohler. Walt Weiss is trying to get it.
Yeah, Tom Kohler finishes, Rich, 6 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. Terrific outing.
By the way, on that Adam Jones point that you made. He's homered tonight, 27th.
27. And he's hitting over 300. That's a pretty good back-to-back duo with Chris Davis and Adam Jones. We mentioned the home run by Miguel Cabrera earlier tonight, his 41st. For Miggy, on his career, 362. That ties him with Todd Helton and puts him past Joe DiMaggio.
Torrey Hunter also homered in that ball game for the Tigers. Marisnick shoots it down the right field line. It is fair into the corner. Marisnick can fly.
This could be 3.
He's headed for second. Now he's headed for third, and he's gonna get there. One out triple. Marisnick is 90 feet away.
Well, as soon as you saw that ball get past Kadire, the right fielder, sneak into that corner, you knew Marisnick was on the move, and Joe Espada, in helping him, had a little problem. He looks like he's hurt. But watch Marisnick. As soon as this ball gets into the corner and it kind of curls away from Kadire, you hit it on the head. Marisnick runs exceptionally well.
No shot of Espada in that replay, but Joe West.
Well, they're all having a little chuckle. So, Joe got tangled up with Chacin.
That's 15 yards. That's a crackback block. That is.
Thank goodness everybody's okay, because we did see them all chuckling at Joe, along with Marisnick and Joe West. But yeah, he was trying to back in and give Marisnick a good angle. In the meantime, Chacin was trying to go over and back up third base.
It's a point of emphasis this year, Tommy. The pitcher, when outside the tackle box, cannot block the third base coach from the outside, especially hit him low like that. He's hanging in there, though.
Hey, don't rule out a squeeze right here with all the stuff that just happened. Sometimes a squeeze happens as a surprise because you've had all kinds of things happening on the field.
Dobbs is on deck. Mathis with the infield in. Fastball in, and obviously Mathis trying to drive something through the infield or deep enough to the outfield to untie this game.
Fastball in, breaking ball away.
You see Espada cover his mouth every time he talks to Marisnick.
The runner at third, he usually doesn't watch for a sign. The sign that the runner hears is a verbal sign. There's a common word, kind of a catchword that the players know. See, that thing can squeeze too. Walt Weiss, I guarantee, dropped down a few squeeze bunts in his career. The 1988 American League Rookie of the Year.
Three and one. Now it's 3-1.
He has to throw a strike.
Mathis off the end of the bat.
Boy, he threw a slider to him. 3-1. good location, just found enough of the outside part of the plate.
He's kept the fastballs in.
Yeah, in with fastball, sliders away.
Three-two. That's out.
Good
At
job
the corners now. Here's Dobbs.
Jeff Mathis had a good at bat to lay off that slider again that Chacin went with.
You got a couple things working here. Dobbs really has picked it up as far as pinch hitting lately. And he's not a guy, Dobbs, in this case, who hits a lot of balls on the ground.
Now you talk about Dobbs. After he started the year, and he had a lot of sporadic, is the best way to put it, I guess, pinch hit appearances, because early in the year, remember, he was playing a lot. And he started the year as a pinch hitter 0 for 8. But after that, Greg Dobbs has gone 9 for 25 as a pinch hitter, a 360 average. They give him his 94 career pinch hits.
And his numbers against Julius Chacin are impressive. Chacin wants a ground ball. Dobbs wants to lift. 94 pitches in is Chacin. Rockies bullpen is active. A one-out triple by Jake Marisnick set the inning in motion. Mathis worked a walk, and he's at first. Dobbs takes away. Eric Hinsky a long ways back as active pinch hit leaders. RBIs.
RBI, 73 for Dobbs.
Walt Weiss's bullpen. Josh Outman, Adam Ottavino. Dobbs definitely was trying to lift that.
Yeah, he got that fastball. Greg Dobbs now 35. Turned 35 in July and still has a lot of pinch hits left in his bat, I guarantee.
Now the count evens at 2-2.
Nice month for Greg Dobbs as well.
He rode that fastball and fouled it all the way into the catcher's glove. It was out. Yelich is next.
Be interesting to see what Dobbs sees. He's seen a lot of fastballs from Chacin.
Well, this at 3-2, it gives the Marlins the option of starting Mathis at first. Not running, and Dobbs lifts it in the air to right. Kadire makes the catch, tagging at third, and coming home is Marisnick, and he scores easily. That is a professional at bat.
He went up there with one thing on his mind. Got to get something I can lift. Don't want the ground ball. He got a slider. He got a breaking ball after seeing a lot of fastballs. Lifted it. It's always a good feeling when you have good speed from your runner at third base, and Marisnick scored easily.
They did not want to give him anything in, and finally when he did come in, Dobbs drove it to right. So it's 2-1 Miami in the bottom of the 7th. Yelich with Mathis still at first. Yelich has hit a dry spell. He's 0 for his last 13.
He's kind of gone up and down. He's had some nice streaks, a couple of little dry spells. Yelich's one home run is only Major League home run in Pittsburgh to the opposite field. Right now, Tom Kohler, the pitcher of record.
Yelich strikes out. The triple by Marisnick was big. The sac fly from Dobbs delivers the run, and now the bullpen will try to protect a 1-run lead. The 8th, and now to the AT&T U-verse rewind. Christian Yelich, first Major League AB, first Major League game. He got actually hosed on this one, so to speak, in baseball parlance, because he got a hit. Everyone thought, hey, first game he got 3 hits, but 3 weeks later, he got a letter in the mail saying his hit had been revoked.
Do they still send a letter, or is it an email?
It's signed by Joe Torre. And
he got an RBI, his first RBI in that game. Those first 2 hits were off Julius Chassin. Now it's Chad Qualls. Chad Qualls had a little lower back stiffness. We saw him last in the first game of the Dodgers series. He had a nice inning. That was the Jose Fernandez game. Qualls came in with a nice inning, and then we haven't seen him since, but he's ready to go tonight to take over and shut things down here in the 8th inning.
DJ LeMahieu helped the Rockies get their only run in the 6th when he tripled to open the inning. The outset of the telecast, Tommy Hutton said Tom Kohler has to get back to pitching like he did against Colorado.
He sure did.
And that was the 22nd of July. 7 innings, 8 hits, a run. In this ball game, 7 innings, 6 hits, a run.
And he continues his mastery over the National League West.
I think Ricky Nolasco gave him his magical powers before he left. Because Ricky always seemed to pitch well, especially on the road against the West.
Oh, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned it, but it was great to see some interaction when the Dodgers were here with Ricky and Jose Fernandez. Because Ricky had the time that they were together as teammates. Ricky had an impact on Jose.
He had a very positive influence.
Yes.
End of the bat, and Morrison is there to snag it. Whole results, shortstops is the category. AT&T Universe brings it to you. Best opposing shortstops this homestand. There's some jokesters out there. Brandon Crawford.
Yeah, I would question that one.
Tulowitzki. Troy Tulowitzki. Now 28, Sunnyvale is home to him. That's in the Silicon Valley in San Jose, Long Beach State. Four significant stops on the disabled list for Tulowitzki. And he hammers that one to deep left center. Marisnik won't get that one, and Tulowitzki doesn't run well. And he's simply going to glide into second with a double.
Yeah, it looked like he jumped on a hanger, a little slider that was up from Qualls.
He's really having to learn how to play the game under control, because the instincts for a guy like Tulowitzki have to be, Tommy, off the bat in this ballpark. Your brain tells you 3, but he's been able to dial it down.
Yeah, and I think they want him to do that because they want him in the lineup. Second double tonight for Tulowitzki.
And he's in scoring position for Michael Kadire and Willeen Rosario. Kadire got an RBI on a fielder's choice in the 6th. And that one is into right field softly. Tulowitzki, they're going to send him. Stanton bobbles, throw to the plate, and on his way to second, and in there is Kadire. And so Tulowitzki had enough to get around third and score. And the Rockies come right back and tie it.
Part of it was the tremendous instincts that Tulowitzki had. Another slider off the end of the bat. Kadire doesn't hit this well, and that's why Tulowitzki, first of all, got a great jump. He knew that ball was going to get over the head of Donovan Solano. Little bobble by Stanton. Don't know if that made a difference. And even just running under control, because of the jump, Tulowitzki was able to score, and heads up by Kadire to go to second on the throw.
And so Qualls gives up the lead. It goes as a blown save here in the 8th inning. Rosario late on that fastball. Cardinals have taken a 1-0 lead in their ball game against Atlanta. Miami's John Jay has knocked in a run. It's now bottom of the 5th, 1-0 Cardinals. Adam Wainwright's given up just 2 hits. Morrison backing up on it. Qualls is there, gets the out. Kadire now at third. That's the At the Ballpark music, which means it's time to activate your At the Ballpark app. Download the MLB.com At the Ballpark mobile app so you can order food directly from your smartphone or upgrade your seats for a ball game from the palm of your hand. Download the free MLB.com at the ballpark app today. You know, 10, 15 years ago, you go to a ball game and a lot of people have the sports page with them. Looking at the standings, checking out box scores from yesterday.
Yeah, it would be their time to kind of check in on baseball.
Here's the 0-1.
And once a week they'd bring the sporting news.
Saw Eddie Stump many times.
That's how he prepared.
Absolutely. Now, yesterday's news is so yesterday's news. Now you get the real-time stuff. If you got the At-Bat app, you can drop in on the Arizona-Philly game and see that Arizona's tied that game 3-3. Or rather, Philadelphia has tied it 3-3. Chooch has driven in 2. Darren Ruff has homered for the Phils. And it's 2-2. Ryan Wheeler. And that's foul. Andy Fletcher had to make the call and get out of the way at the same time.
You see umpires do that every so often. It's not easy because sometimes they get turned around a little bit.
Right center, long run, and it's over Marisnik's head and off the wall. Wheeler stops at second. Second double of the inning, second run of the inning. And now a 2-1 Marlins lead has turned into a 3-2 Rockies lead.
Well, very frustrating for all. Some sliders that didn't have the usual bite we see from balls. And some hitters that have taken advantage. A couple of doubles in this inning.
Two runs in. Arenado, the third baseman now. And Qualls has to be careful with Arenado. He's doubled. Ball and a strike.
When we talked about all those doubles the Dodgers had in that series, Rockies have 5 extra base hits tonight, 4 doubles. And then the triple by LeMahieu.
Two and 1. Well, Dunn's ready. Blackman's on deck. A left-handed bat. Two and 2. Jose Fernandez tomorrow night, 6:30, Marlins Live.
Jose trying to pick up win number 10.
And Qualls strikes out Arenado. But the Rockies do some damage. Kadire and that man, Ryan Wheeler, make it 3-2. Lead. We check in with Craig Minervini. Craig?
Rich, thank you very much. Just a little update here on Placido Polanco. Got plunked in the head the other night and wound up with a concussion, and the Marlins put him on that 7-day concussion disabled list. Right now, Mike Redmond says no progress. It's a day-to-day situation. He does come in, get some light work on the bike just to try and keep active a little bit cardio-wise, but that's about it. And it could extend beyond the 7 days. There's no direct move from, let's say, a 7-day to a 15-day DL. It just extends day after day. He has to stay on a minimum of 7 days. Right now, it's certainly going in that direction. Mike's hoping to get some better news, but basically it's take it easy, and it's totally up to Polanco here. When he feels better, he'll return to the Marlins over at third base. Guys?
Thank you, Craig. Well, the Marlins are going to have to rally again in this ball game. Corey Dickerson comes in into left field, and it moves Charlie Blackmon over to right, so Michael Kadire is out.
We'll have to see if Walt Weiss made the double switch or if he's just kind of holding off. If he holds off, he can pinch hit who he wants. Mostly fastballs and sliders from Adam Ottavino. If your name starts with an O, you can wear a 0 for your number.
You don't see the number O in baseball much.
Yeah, there was the Jim Otto. You remember him.
Jim Otto was 0-0.
0-0 with the Raiders.
Oh, wait a minute. We've discovered that Kadire is now at first. And Solano swings and misses. Ottavino strikes Solano out. And that opens the bottom of the 8th. Coors Light Cold Hard Facts, brought to you by Frostbrewed Coors Light. Last night's loss at Philly was the Rockies' 1,000th on the road. Only Pittsburgh has more. Wait a minute.
The Pirates have only lost 30. They're 33-30 on the road.
Gotcha. Since the Rockies have been a franchise in '93, only Pittsburgh has more road losses. We had to thaw the cold hard fact out for us to wrap our small minds around it. Stanton reaches out, pokes it down the right field line. That's a long run for Blackman. He doesn't get there.
Yeah, right now in the lineup, Walt Weiss has Dickerson, who came in to play left field, hitting in the number 9 spot, and Ottavino goes into Wheeler's spot, number 6 spot.
Stanton takes a call, third strike. Fastball dots the outside corner. Ottavino has struck out the first 2 that he's faced.
Well, he got Solano with a good slider. He gets Stanton with that fastball that does catch the corner. Pitch number 4.
Now Morrison, who is 0 for 2 with a walk. Loma with a fly ball to left. Dickerson there, and he makes the catch, and the Marlins go down in order. Ottavino out of the pen is sharp. 3-2 Rockies. Summary brought to you by Auto Nation.
Not a lot of scoring in this one, but Ed Lucas hit his 3rd home run of the year in the 5th inning, and just like that, the Marlins were on top 1-0. But in the 6th, after a leadoff triple, the Rockies, on a fielder's choice, are able to pick up the run. Kadire got the RBI. How about Greg Dobbs putting his ball club up 2-1 with a sac fly and a great AB after a Marisnick triple. But in the 8th inning, facing Chad Qualls, Dyer with a base hit. He drives in a run, and that came after the double by Tulowitzki. And then Wheeler found that right center field gap with a double, driving in the second run and putting the Rockies ahead 3-2. It's been a close ball game. We've talked about all the games this year. The Marlins have scored 2 runs or less. The Marlins, 61 games this year, 2 runs or less. They're going to have to go over and above that if they want to get back in this game.
Moon over Miami. So Chad Qualls gave up the 2 in the 8th. Mike Dunn arrives for the 9th. You never know where you're going to get help from the crack staff. Baseball fan 87 tweets, Brian Wilson was wearing 00 for the Dodgers. Tommy dropped a Jim Otto on the show.
I also thought I read today where he said no to the $1 million, I don't know if it would be a wager, but no to shaving the beard and everything for $1 million. I thought I read today where he said no.
That shows a tremendous amount of research on your part if you got all the way down to that. That's incredible. Charlie Blackmon leading it off. Blackmon has singled in 3 trips. He takes a breaking ball and bangs it the other way, foul. How cool is that from the blimp?
And that's not cheese.
Though it does kind of look like a big Cheez-It.
What a shot.
Just to make baseball fan 87 happy.
See, we were so focused on the beard that the 00 went unnoticed.
She also goes by Stephanie. Good work, Steph. Crack staff t-shirt will be in the mail.
Yeah, good work by Dunn on a high fastball to put away Blackmon.
Rex Brothers is up in the bullpen.
You know, the only win the Rockies got in Denver in that 4-game series, Brothers picked up the save. He was closing at that time. So with Betancourt on the disabled list, Betancourt 16 saves, Brothers has 11.
Fastball. And a swing and a miss. Dickerson's first at bat. Archimedes Caminero is in. Tommy, I know you happened upon it this morning, but it took me a while to find it online. But
am I correct?
You are. The Razor Blade Company.
You had me second guessing myself.
800razors.com offered him $1 million to shave off his beard, and Wilson said, "I don't care how much money's on the table. Nobody's cutting me. I'm taking this beard with me to the grave." Swing and a miss. Corey Dickerson strikes out. Dunn has a couple of strikeouts. Here is Dexter Fowler. Moon through the window. Done throwing hard and throwing strikes. Counts 0-2. Miami in the bottom of the ninth will have Ed Lucas, Adeni Echeverria, Jake Marisnik. They've already used, Miami has, Greg Dobbs, and he provided them a 2-1 lead with a sacrifice fly. That was quick. Mike Dunn strikes out the side. And on to the bottom of the ninth. Bullpen for the Rockies has melted down their last 2 games. Saturday night in Miami, and it's Jose Fernandez. As Tommy pointed out, he probably won't make too many more home starts, but he will tomorrow night against the Rockies, and we've got it. Marlins Live starts at 6:30. The Kid takes the hill. The Marlins, who have had the lead a couple of times in this ball game, have seen the Rockies inch ahead, and now it's down to the bottom of the ninth inning.
Well, Rex Brothers has taken over that closer role. Nice numbers, good record, kind of a herky-jerky delivery, good fastballs and sliders from Brothers. I think it's time tomorrow night, Rich, to get the Cuban sandwiches back up here. We'll have to check in with the Taste of Miami out there.
Brothers out of Shelbyville, Tennessee. And then went on to pitch at Lipscomb University. He was the Atlantic Sun's best freshman when he arrived, and he ended up setting a school record for strikeouts. Bouncer down the third base line. It's a fair ball. Arenado on the reach was Kadire, and he was able to keep his foot on the bag. Lucas is out number 1. After the ballgame, Marlins Live. Tom Kohler, nice start. Ed Lucas goes yard. Marlins were all set up in this one. A 2-1 lead that disappeared in the 8th. Jeff Conine has his best parade wave. It's bittersweet for the Rockies that Brothers is out there right now. Rafael Betancourt, their veteran closer, blew a save on Wednesday. Michael Young had a walk-off hit. Last night, Dominic Brown a walk-off hit. And Betancourt has elbow issues. They called it a sprain, but they will examine that elbow to see if there's any type of damage other than a sprain. Brothers steps off. Echeverria steps out. Miami looking for a base runner. Brothers taking some big steps forward this year. And a strike. He said that following Matt Belisle and Betancourt around and just watching their routine in the bullpen, how they approached it, has made a big difference.
Yeah, a couple of veterans that he's been able to watch. That's a good point, too, because a lot of times it's part of that is obviously watching when they're on the mound, but watching what they do to prepare.
So here he finds himself closing games, and a guy that he really credited for smoothing out his mechanics in the minors, his pitching coach in Tulsa, Brian Harvey. No swing.
Well, we talked about Marlins connections here tonight with Walt Weiss as the manager, Renee Latchman as his first base coach. Now you drop a Brian Harvey on me.
(3-2). And he swung right through it. 94 miles an hour from Rex Brothers. And he's got 2 outs.
Well, it's down to the guy who had a big base hit in the 7th inning. A 1-out triple by Jake Marisnick, and then he came home on the sac fly off the bat of Greg Dobbs. And for a minute, the Marlins had the lead 2-1.
Now Marisnick.
Part of Brothers' success is his delivery. It's a real conventional. He's got good stuff. There's no question about that. But his release point, he's a little herky jerky. Kind of throws the glove at you.
And he's making quick work of the Marlins here in the 9th.
And this pitch, a pretty good changeup. Talked about fastball and slider. That was a real good changeup.
Miami down to their last strike. And Rex Brothers saves the game. Oh, that's impressive. And for the Rockies, having blown 2 ninth-inning leads their last 2 games, a better finish for them. A tough defeat for the Marlins, who had a 2-1 lead going into the 8th. Troy Tulowitzki, a double to start that rally. Kadire drove him in. Ryan Wheeler had the RBI double, and despite an Ed Lucas home run, the Rockies beat the Marlins 3-2. We'll wrap it up from Miami after this.